Greetings and salutations. My name is Michael Schwahn, and this is your one-take review of Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon. Couple of disclaimers before we get too far in here. I am a massive and longtime Bayonetta fan. I actually played the game before it was available in the United States. When it was coming out, me and my friend, we found out that the Japanese version of the game on PlayStation 3 actually had everything for English available in it. Everything from the voice acting, the menu options. So if you could get your hands on a Japanese copy, then you'd be able to play it even in English. And it came out like 8 or 9 months early in Japan versus in the United States, because that's just how things were back then. So we paid the extra like 10 bucks in shipping to get it imported through like Play Asia or whatever. And we played it as soon as we absolutely could, and we absolutely enjoyed it, and I was a fan of the franchise ever since. And I've been a fan of the franchise, and that has really never wavered. I enjoyed Bayonetta 2, and I really enjoyed Bayonetta 3 as well. Yes, even the ending of Bayonetta 3. In fact, I did a review of Bayonetta 3. I'll leave a link to it down below the like button. But when it comes to games or movies or products or events or anything like that, your reception of that event or product is going to be heavily based on your expectation of that event or product. And this is why I think that marketing is really important, especially when it comes to things like video games. Because if you market your product properly, then you will give people a better idea of what it is they're purchasing, and that will give them a better understanding of what they're going to be getting into, which means that hopefully they'll have better reception for it when they actually get done with it. So when it came to Bayonetta Origins, I was like, I saw the trailers, we watched all of them, and I was like, okay, here's what I'm expecting. I'm gonna expect a slightly more kid-friendly game. It's going to be a storybook adventure, because that's definitely a huge aesthetic within it. It is this kind of fairy tale-esque vibe, and it is going to probably be easier than the original Bayonetta trilogy. It's going to be friendlier in a way, and it's going to be cute, and I'm probably going to enjoy it for those reasons, rather than this, you know, really like hyper dominant feminism badassery that is Bayonetta 1 through 3, and instead it's going to be this cute, almost like a magical adventure, right? So as we get into it, this is the prequel to Bayonetta as a whole, but I want to put an asterisk on that, because it's a really heavy prequel. If you've played Bayonetta 1, one of the very first things you learn is that Bayonetta was locked at the bottom of the lake for 500 years before Luca woke her up. You don't see what led to the lake happen in Bayonetta Origins. It is well before any of that happens, because through this whole game, Bayonetta is a child. The game starts and Bayonetta's like 10, and I don't know if she stays 10 when we're playing the game, but it definitely feels like she's probably closer to around like 13, maybe-ish, maybe 14, maybe. And the whole game is kind of built on the premise of that Bayonetta still has a lot of learning to do. She is a very inexperienced witch. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's struggling with her magic and rituals and casting and understanding like the mantras and stuff in order to make witch magic happen, to tap into her Umbran arts. And it's such a different step from the Bayonetta trilogy, because Bayonetta 1 through 3, Bayonetta is hyper confident. Always, never wavers. No matter what you throw at Bayonetta, she will have an answer. She will make up an answer, and never once does she even so much as stumble. Whereas here we see Cereza stumble a lot, and she's struggling with her growth, and she has a very important goal as to why she's trying to get to where she wants to go to, but that doesn't necessarily make the journey any easier just because you have a purpose. And the main thing that she's struggling with is trying to summon demons, one of the things that Umbran witches are known for. You know, they open a portal to Inferno, use their hair to control a demon, and then beat ass with it. And that doesn't happen easily for Cereza in Bayonetta Origins. And while she's going through her training, she is having these dreams and is given a message that is drawing her into a nearby forest. It's called Avalon, and this forest is populated by a bunch of malevolent fairies. And she gets drawn in a moment of desperation. She tries to summon a demon. The demon does kill the fairies, but then the demon wants to be sent back to Inferno. She doesn't know how to do it. The demon is running out of time because it's going to die without either her hair keeping it alive or the power from Inferno keeping it alive. So it jumps into her stuffed cat Cheshire. And I'm going to mostly stop right there, because anything beyond that is is a pretty heavy spoiler for the rest of the story of the game, and I don't really want to spoil any more for you beyond setting the premise of what we're doing. This game's gameplay is really unique, okay? You have dual controls for the game, and what I mean by that is that on one controller, and I wish I would have brought one, on one controller, your left stick and the buttons on the left side, those all control Bayonetta. And on the right side, the right joystick and your right triggers and buttons, those all control Cheshire. And both characters, outside of a couple very limited circumstances, are always on the screen together at the same time. And you need to use them in tandem. And you can summon and recall Cheshire, and there's some interactions with that, but for the most part, for most of your encounters, you're going to have both characters out on the field, and you're going to be controlling them independently. Bayonetta is able to use some of her Umbran magics to use things like being able to bind enemies, so she can cast a spell, and then I think it uses her hair, but the visuals make it a little bit difficult to really tell, to hold the enemies in place, which gives Cheshire a chance to do a follow-up combo attack or just beat wholesale ass, right? And this sounds simple. It sounds like a simple concept, but let me tell you what, even by the end of the game, while I was confident in my ability to play the game with these controls, I can't say that I was comfortable doing so. Confident, yes. Comfortable, no, because it is hard to track two independent characters that you are moving independently. And the game does have some accessibility options, thankfully, because Bayonetta is normally a very inaccessible franchise. There's things like allowing Bayonetta to auto-cast their abilities. There's also some difficulty options, which is a welcome sight, because previous Bayonetta games, you had normal, and you had hard, and you had really hard, and you had even harder. And there is an easy mode available in Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. It is called like Storybook mode, which is very appropriate. And I didn't test it or try it, but by the sounds of what it describes, it just makes the game really easy so that you can enjoy the story that is being presented to you. But the game just has an awkward control scheme, and it's not even a bad one. It's just awkward, and I think the reason I find it most awkward is lack of legacy experience, because like I've been playing video games for too many years, and a lot of video games will transfer their skill sets into another video game. So if you've played something like it, then you're like, oh yeah, I've played third-person shooters before, you know, I've played a ton of Fortnite, I can use that in Resident Evil 4. It's not perfect, but you do have that cross-thread. It's like having a legacy of experience in fighting games. Going from one fighting game to another one, you can adapt to it fairly quickly with limited exception. There are not games that I am aware of that control the way that Bayonetta Origins does, in terms of having two characters that are controlled independently, but you are the only person controlling them. It's like a co-op game that you are playing with yourself and holding both controllers, and it is difficult, at least for my brain. I still enjoyed it a lot, but it just was an adventure in and of itself of trying to make sure that Bayonetta isn't going to get attacked because she is very defenseless, and trying to be aggressive with Cheshire. It was fun, it was neat, but it was not simple. But that said, overall, the game and its gameplay is fairly simple. There is not a whole lot of combo structure, there is not a whole lot of like depth to the enemies, the enemy types, the way they attack, the things that they do. It's pretty simple overall. But the dual character concept makes it complex. As you go through the game, you will unlock new abilities, and these abilities will have, like, you'll unlock new forms for Cheshire, and these forms will have abilities, and there are some enemies that interact with them, like you'll need to knock off a shield, or maybe pull on something, or whatever, and these abilities are fairly simple and very simple to understand, and when the enemies need you to use one of those abilities, it's really clearly telegraphed, so they don't really overcomplicate the game at all, which is good, and it remains that the difficulty of the game lies in coordinating both of the characters that you are playing as at once. Now, I will say that there is a gameplay surprise at the end of the game, but that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to say too much more than that, because it was a very enjoyable time, and I would encourage you, if you are interested in this game, to play through it if you would like to find that surprise for yourself. Visually, though, this game it's great, okay? I mean, it's obviously not Bayonetta 1 through 3, but it's not trying to be. And this game feels so much more appropriate for the Nintendo Switch. It's got simpler visuals, it's not quite as fast, which makes it a lot easier to process, so this game looks and runs great. I absolutely love the storybook vibe because it lends very well to the fairy tale that is being told throughout the story. And, you know, I made a little note here. The whole story is about Bayonetta fighting fairies, and I realized when I called it a fairy tale, I was like, that's a really cute pun. I hate it. I'm not a big fan of puns. It's a cute pun, though, so I'm leaving it in here. And the whole game, it has these bright, vibrant colors that just make you feel kind of cozy, even though there's horrible things happening. But the nice thing about those bright, vibrant colors is they make everything really clean and clear. Everything has really good contrast. You can see, like, Bayonetta's dark clothes stand out against the bright green backgrounds. Cheshire's dark purple and, like, dark purple flames and effects and stuff, not to mention just his size, also stand out really well. So it actually makes it a lot easier to keep track of them because it's much harder for them to get lost amongst the graphics of the game itself. I hope that this was intentional, because if so, it was an absolutely brilliant choice. This game's audio does not let you down either. It doesn't have very many voice actors. The voice actors that are actually the most is, of course, Cereza, as well as Cheshire, and then the narrator. The narrator will actually... No, wait, no. Cheshire doesn't have a voice. The narrator does Cheshire's voice. The narrator does several people's voices, which is fun because the game starts with a storybook opening and the narrator reading you the story, and they do the voices for not all of the characters, but for a very significant number of them, like you're being told a story. And all of the performances in this game are very, very strong. When it comes to the story, though, it is a strong story, but it is also very predictable. That said, it did make me cry, and it made me cry more than once. Not that it's that hard to make me cry, but it still did make me cry, okay? And that's something to be said. It does also leave a very interesting window of time between the end of this game and the beginning of Bayonetta 1. I know that the director of the Bayonetta franchise, Hideki Kamiya, he has said that he would like to continue and do more within the Bayonetta space. And so whether that's going to be Bayonetta 4 that takes place after the events of Bayonetta 3, or a game that takes place after this game, or maybe both, I don't know. But there is definitely a lot, and I mean a lot, of room for a game that exists after Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, and before Bayonetta 1. Ultimately, though, I absolutely loved this game. It is a absolutely cherishable gem. And again, yes, Cheshire, cherishable. I wrote it and then went, ah. It's a really cute pun, so I'm leaving it in. So enjoy that one, take it with you, and put it in your pocket for when you leave. This game will not be for everyone, though. Absolutely not. Some people will be absolutely, like, just rejecting the controls all over the place. And especially if you're a Bayonetta fan, or if you're a fan of character spectacle fighters, which the core trilogy is, you might not like this game, because it is not that. And it is not trying to be that. It's not trying to be a more accessible one. It is trying to be its own thing. But if you go in with the right expectations, if you expect this different game that is set within the Bayonetta universe, and you expect this type of combat, you should have an absolutely wonderful time. Or at least I hope you do. If you absolutely want a number, I'm actually going to give this game a 9 out of 10. I think it is very deserving of that. It does have a couple of spots where you can kind of see the cracks in the mirror as it was, but it definitely holds up really, really well. And I think this game is actually better made, better built, and better designed than like Bayonetta 3 was. And it's not just because of story reasons, it's just a better package and presentation, and I think it's very deserving of that score. But feel free to disagree with me. I'd love to hear from you. If you don't agree, put them down in the replies below, and we can have a conversation about it. But what were your thoughts if you have played Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, or how do you feel about the game after watching this review? Let me know. I really would love to hear from you. Our next review is actually going to be on 9 Years of Shadows. So if that's something that you're interested in, maybe hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, we got new videos coming out every single day, and we currently stream on Twitch. So go check out the links below if that's something that you're interested in. Thank you so much for checking out my review of Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. If you do go watch one of the other videos on the channel, or if I see you in the live stream, thank you and enjoy.